Now it's time for Whispers, your number one source for all things paranormal, with your hosts Jordan Klein and Nick Queen, and produced by the lovely Lola Miller. Whispers is brought to you by West Virginia Penitentiary Tours at the West Virginia State Penitentiary in Moundsville. Unforgettable, historical, educational.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Whispers Radio on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog, and UPRN, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. It is 6:08 p.m., 53 degrees in downtown Wheeling. Our numbers here are 304-214-1600. If you're out of the area, our toll-free number, toll-free number is 1-866-514-1600. Sorry, I had like a brain
Well, today
there
it
for a
would
minute.
not be hard to have a brain freeze. It is cold.
It's chilly.
It's cold out, and it's going down to 39. They're saying we could get frost tonight.
It says it's
Really?
74 over there on the.
Yeah,
That's
been 74 since we started.
I know.
In the cold, blistery days of December.
It's like, man, there's snow on the ground, but it's 74
I
over there.
barely got here.
That's because Lola is so hot that...
You're just trying to deflect what you did to me just before we went on the air.
Okay.
Which was the opposite of hot.
Well, okay.
Or not.
The warning before the show says brief nudity.
Well, I
just didn't want the man to be a liar.
It was brief.
Let him
And
lie.
it was nude. And it was aimed directly at me. So.
Right now, people are having all kinds of images, and it's not it.
I'm giving somebody in the world today a nightmare. I don't.
Or a thrill.
There we go.
You go.
Jesus Louise.
Oh.
Well,
How's everybody?
Capitol's open.
Yes, it is.
The last
and thank you. The
Wednesday.
pictures you took turned out very nice.
Because let me tell you what, this guy knows how to use a camera.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Capitol was that was a fun night. I had a lot of fun.
I'm glad you did.
And,
I'm glad you went.
Got my picture taken. What was her name? Pam.
Yes, Pam and
Pam and her
Danielle.
daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Got my picture taken with her and them.
Fine.
That was fun.
They're all up on Facebook.
Are they?
Mm-hmm.
Yours?
No.
Her Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay, Pam, if you're listening, add me as a friend so I can see the pictures.
Okay. I'll give you her name off the air. And yeah, there's a lot of pictures.
She think you were
Or
Jack Black?
go on-
Or...
She thought I
No,
was you, so she
actually-
wanted my picture or the picture.
You
No, I
can
was
go
trying to
on
think,
mine.
Who was? Oh, no. Who
So I said I'm Nick
Somebody
Queen.
said you were some wrestler. Bam Bam Bigelow? Or...
No,
What?
Bubba Ray Dudley.
Yeah.
When
yeah.
I was in
trying to think of who...
I was in Newark, Delaware, and staying at a motel, and I took my little brother to the Continental Breakfast, and I'm eating there, and this guy like stops in his tracks and's like, "Oh my God, you're Bubba Ray Dudley," and like was following me around, and like I'm like
Bubba Ray Dudley.
one of the Dudley boys.
Look it up, and you would.
I'm a Dudley
You'd be
son.
like, whoa.
And old Miss Dudley's boy, you know. But he was following me around the whole, like I was walking my dog outside, like he just like is getting his friends like, "Hey, look, you know."
A beret.
And I put, if you go to my blog,
You should have put him through a table.
whispersradio.com/Jordan, I got a picture. I took a picture of Bubba Ray and a picture of me and kind of put them right next to each other.
And nothing there, right?
I don't know.
I'm going right now.
Oh, you can get on my go to my Facebook. The pictures are there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they should be because she everybody
Because she
tagged them.
tagged you, so
Yeah,
she
a lot of people did. A lot of people sent me the pictures they took.
Did a lot of people take pictures of you up on stage?
Yes, and a lot of people took pictures of my backside
There you
facing
go.
out too.
Lola's got some fans.
Oh my.
Wheeling loves Lola's backside.
That was the most fun. I have never been so excited.
You
As
know,
I was that night.
Bubba Ray Dudley and you? Actually, yes.
Really?
Traveling Diary #2? I think so.
Could you not get more imaginative than Traveling Diary?
Well, that's when I took my big trip.
I know,
I wrote,
but can't you name them?
well, every day I wrote something.
Ted and somebody's great adventure, or there's lots of names that you could come up with. Jordan's
The Marvelous Misadventures
Yes!
of Mr. Klein.
There you go. That's a good name. Kind of like Benjamin Button.
The title is apt for you, though.
Misadventures, I know.
Well, I'm talking, what did I do this time?
Yeah, the title of my blog, What Did I Do This Time? Because it always happens, You know, whatever. That's the good of being me.
Yeah. That's what we all know and love about you.
I can screw up as much as I can, and the only thing that happens is Nick yells at me for the rest of the week.
And that's easily dealt with. You just don't answer the phone.
I'm like, what, Nick?
I go outside of his house with a bullhorn.
Nick's like Michael Moore. He'll like stand outside with you're under citizen's arrest.
I want to see that movie. I know everybody complains about Michael Moore, but he serves a great purpose. He serves he's got a reason.
Yeah.
I mean, you may not like the man, and you may not like the way that he approaches a lot of subjects, but he does give you pause for thought. I don't want health care in Cuba, but the fact remains.
I didn't like the
Bowling for Columbine.
Bowling for Columbine was all right. The Fahrenheit 9/11 I thought was really one side. Like I know it was supposed to be one-sided, but there was some stuff that was like, I think you're adding a little bit there. The healthcare one, it was all right. No, I'm.
Well, he did. Didn't he do one on the automakers too? Because I remember him being in Flint.
That was Roger and Me.
Yeah.
Okay, I never saw that one.
That was his first
okay.
one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
First one that really people paid attention to.
Yeah. And then, I'm interested to see this new one. The healthcare one, I like when he went to Cuba. He's like, hey, we want healthcare too.
Yeah.
And I like the preview for this one where he says, hey, where's our money? And she's like, I don't know. It's like, well,
I saw
there
that
it is
interview.
right there, really.
Yeah, she's very outspoken, and I'm surprised she's the head of the FDIC, I think, or had been. And the first time I saw her interviewed, and she was so blunt and open about things, and I thought, boy, she's not long for this job. She told it like it was. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's good in a way, but it's like, okay, that answers it right there. They really don't know what they're doing.
No, I know. I know they don't. I know they don't.
My only defense, there's a lot of younger administrations. You have to get their feet under them first. So, don't give me that look.
So
I'm not talking about the administration. I'm not talking about
I realize that.
I'm talking about the overall government.
Oh, they have no idea what.
Like last week, whoever that is.
Yeah. And you know what? Remember my thing about nanoprobes in the vaccine?
Yeah.
Okay. Go out to a remote. First thing the lady says to me is, you know what? I'm so glad you said that on the air. She said, because I've been thinking it, but I've been too afraid to say it out loud. And she's a nurse, so she understands how they, could very easily come up with something. I mean, I'm sure it's not nanoprobes, but, that they could come up with something.
Well, my little brother's down in South Carolina. My mom said that they were, like, the school system was saying, okay, they have to get this vaccine and they have to get this swine flu vaccine.
Yep.
And it's like...
They're making them doing it New York, too.
Who is it? The guy who runs That's Italian.
Mark Busak.
Okay, he handed us a few weeks ago. Nick and I were there eating before the show, and he handed us a thing on the flu vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the chemicals that were in it.
Yeah. And
it was like, okay, Mom, I'm gonna read you this real quick, and then tell me if you're really gonna let the boys have it, because I mean they're younger, but it was like, it causes paralysis in lab rats. 9 out of 10 times. It's like, why are they telling children they have to have this?
Well, now are they going to make it mandatory, just like
she said they were telling them they were having it, and she said she was going to the school board to refuse it.
Well, depending on what state you live in and what school board you're under, there are school boards and states that will let you opt out of any inoculations period for your kid.
I know, like in North West Virginia, it's mandatory for the regular vaccines. What's the measles, mumps,
rubella, all
those are all mandatory. In Ohio, you don't have to.
I'm not sure about it, but I know in West Virginia, and there's a group that is, trying to petition because there have been bills written that will allow you to opt out on religious reasons or personal reasons.
And my sister, she does not want to have her kids, and they have not been vaccinated, and she won't send them to public school in West Virginia because she lives in Ohio, but if she was living in West Virginia, she was not going to send them. She was going to homeschool them anyways, but even to go to a private school, they had to have them.
Well, and so I but in West Virginia, there is a group that's fighting this, and I've seen copies of the bill that was written, or actually it's just an annex to a bill already there, and it keeps getting stonewalled for some reason. They won't, and if you have valid religious or medical reasons that you don't want your children to have this, especially in this day and age. But you heard about Jesuit. They're quarantining. If a kid comes up, even if they think it's the swine flu, they're quarantining them into their rooms. Or if they have somewhere else to live off campus, they have to move off campus until they're cleared.
Well, we got a similar email at West Liberty University.
Did you?
It was if you have any flu-like symptoms, you have to stay in your room up until 24 hours after your fever goes down.
Let's see.
And then you have to bring medical proof.
And why Lily said to go ahead and just become allergic to eggs, you can't get the vaccine.
No, I know. My sister's allergic to eggs.
Because they said that she said it's growing in the vaccine's growing in eggs.
Yeah, but see, in West Virginia, it wouldn't matter. There is no exemption, period, for getting immunized.
Wow.
Not medical, not religious. There isn't one. You have to get your kids immunized if you want them to go to school.
There should be flexibility, I think.
I agree.
It should be a parent's decision. I mean, if your kid doesn't get immunized and the other kid does, okay, and your kid gets it and might be contagious, if your kid's already immunized, whatever the word is, how are they going to catch it?
Yeah.
Right? So what does it matter?
That's true.
It's like, well, they might get sick and they might get others sick. Well, not if, their parents opted to have them, have the vaccine.
Well, now you've heard with this swine flu thing, the last that I heard, the government was saying, because they're coming out with all these dire predictions, that if this thing takes hold, X amount of people are going to be out of work, which is going to shut down essential services because you're going to have such a percentage of people in every profession sick and off they say at the same time, that they are trying now to say that you are, usually it's once your fever is gone, you're no longer contagious.
Yeah.
They're saying 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So, of course, it's going to shut down everything because now instead of say 3 to 5 day off sick, you're going to have to stay home for 2 weeks.
Now, is that what Jesuit's saying?
That's what they've got. No, they're letting them back in as soon as they feel better.
I was about to say, could you imagine all the classwork they missed that they paid for being that?
Well, they're
these
emailing.
Days you can do it online.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's how they're taking.
Well, let's go to our guest.
Oh, you.
How do we even get to this? We were talking about Bubba Ray Dudley.
Hey, you know what? That's what happens. What happens.
Free-flowing shows like ours. We're just we go around in circles.
All right, the guest.
Miss Annie Wilder's new book is called Spirits Out of Time: True Family Ghost Stories and Weird Paranormal Experiences. Annie, are you with us?
Yeah. Hi, guys.
Hi. How you doing?
I'm really good. Thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, well, we're excited about it. We love hearing ghost stories. It's getting that time of year, and this is the season to be screaming. I don't know. How's that? Can I coin that?
No.
Wow.
Can I coin that phrase? Is that even good?
I think there's a bumper sticker.
There we go. See, I like you already, Annie.
Well, living in a haunted house, I can tell you that the spirits do become more active at this time of year. It's
Really?
not just folklore. There is actually some truth to it. And I've thought about that, and I'm wondering if it's because the energy of the earth, the nature is sort of shutting down, turning inward, but going into more like a cocooning stage for wintertime. And that's maybe we're just able to tune into the spirits more then, or they're able to come through more easily because things are more still and quiet. Like maybe it's more conducive to spirit activity.
You think it's maybe because we're thinking about it more? I mean,
Yes. Although, harvest time or fall time is super busy for human schedule, but what's happening with nature is that everything is sort of becoming more still and quiet and getting ready to, I don't know, shut down, hibernate for the winter.
Well, if I'm correct in my memory here, this season where we celebrate Halloween, like through the ancient I guess religions, believe that this was the time of year when the line, like the curtain between the living and the dead, was really thin.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that the dead could walk in the world of the living. And that's where we get like the dressing up for Halloween and stuff like that.
Right, carrying a jack-o'-lantern to keep the spooks away and things like that. And I think that's also where the church came up with All Saints Day and All Souls Day for November 1st.
Now, before we get any further, and because I don't want to get into the middle of all the ghost stuff and then go back to this, you were telling me on the phone, our last week's guest, Stan Romanek, he went to your house.
Yes.
And some crazy things happened.
Yes.
And you wanted
actually,
to share? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so I did not hear your interview with Stan. Can you tell me in a nutshell how it went?
Oh, well, we talked a lot about people calling, and
the Audrey.
Audrey, yes. Now, did Audrey call your house?
Audrey did not call my house, thank heavens, because I probably would have fallen over dead.
Because let me tell you, if you had that recorded, I would buy you a present. I don't know what it'd be, but I'd buy you something.
Part of me wants that to happen, and part of me is like, I really don't want that to happen. I get mixed up because it'd be cool to like, wow, it does happen, but then it'd be like, oh my Lord, it happened.
It's so weird. I did go to Stan's presentation. He was in Minneapolis, and he did a presentation at a bookstore, and the Audrey voice was at least as scary to me as the UFO alien abduction stuff. For some reason, it was
really
just so freaky.
Did he play that for you?
Yeah, it's part of his presentation.
Wow.
And I can tell you because Jen Spies is my publicist, and I know that she was at work, and she is Stan's publicist also. She got a call at work from the Audrey voice, and it was just like high commotion because that Audrey voice is like this weird female robotic voice with a British accent.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
And it comes in when I actually don't know what line it comes in on for Stan's at Stan's house, but this voice called Jen, and it also called another Llewellyn author who met Stan and spent a bunch of time with him at a conference out in Colorado. And when it called this other author, who is a spiritual medium, Troy Parkinson, and he's also a filmmaker, and he had talked to Stan about doing like a documentary of Stan's life. And Troy and his wife, asked their guides for some sign that this was an okay thing to do, that it was positive, because it's a little outside of the realm of, communicating with spirits of loved ones who have crossed over. And he got a call from the Audrey voice and he had his cell phone in it, and it rang, and he picked it up and he looked at it, and it said that it was his wife calling him. But his wife was sitting on the couch watching TV, and she didn't have her cell phone in her hand. And he was actually able to, as I understand it, record part of this conversation. It's not like a canned message from Audrey. It's like an interactive conversation. So, and the Audrey voice told him that it was very important for this message to get out, and he would be doing a good thing if he did a documentary of Stan. And when the Audrey voice called Jen at work, it called. She was having weird phone stuff all morning at work, and then the phone, it shows who's calling or what number they're calling from, and it rang like after all these weird staticky phone calls where she couldn't pick anything up. It rang, and it was her boss's line.
Oh.
But so of course you're going to pick up if
your
wife's calling you or your boss is calling you. And she picked up, and it was the Audrey voice, and telling her that it was very important for them to get the word out. Like, it's important for all to get the word out for the good of all, or something sort of ominous and sci-fi sounding.
No, I don't want to sound skeptical in this.
Right.
But I think it would be cool if anybody out there that has any kind of ability to make the Audrey voice to call people randomly and tell them to listen to Whispers Radio.
Well, the thing that's very freaky is somebody's been doing this for 8 years.
Yeah.
You know, and I asked Jen, what do you think it is? And she's like, I don't know what it is, but if it's just somebody doing a joke, they have spent a lot of time, and they've got some sort of, it's not just somebody calling from a random unknown number or something. If they're able to call in on a number that is familiar and important to the person they're calling, they've got some level of knowledge, you know, of people or people's lives or something like that. It's just very weird. And so when Stan was, I invited him to my house, and Stan, his wife, and some friends who were traveling with them came over. And I do live in a haunted house. I've lived here for 15 years.
Now, what kind of stuff goes on in your house?
Everything from seeing spirits to hearing voices to knocks in the walls and lights going off and on, smelling things like perfume or cigars. People have seen balls of light. One of the main things that happens here, which I'm very happy that it happens to visitors too, because people come here wanting a ghost experience usually. And if my house doesn't have like a resident evil spirit or anything like that, or I wouldn't still be here. I think overall my house is very positive. It's energetically weird, but overall I feel like I have allies in the spirit world.
Okay, so it's not like a direct haunting. You think that, you know, somebody, like, it's kind of open, like, hey, come on in, Annie lives here?
Yeah, I have been told, I've had a number of psychics come through, and I have been told that this house is filled with portals. And some of the spirits that come and go are spirits of people who used to live here. And that's what my first book was about. One of the main spirits that has stayed on as a sort of a guardian of the house after crossing over is Leon, the old guy who lived here. Some of the spirits so we've had like interactive spirits where you feel like they're aware of what you're saying and doing. One night I woke up and there was like an image of a woman at the foot of my bed. And it was the only time that I've ever had the coldness that people associate with spirit manifestation. I woke up from a sound sleep that night, and my feet were so cold that I was scared. I had never felt anything like it. I actually wondered like if I was dying. Like this is inhuman to feel this cold. And I sat up to pull the covers down, like thinking my feet had gotten, were sticking out from the covers. And there was an image of a woman sitting at the foot of my bed. And she looked really sad, I mean incredibly sad. And she was sort of looking down. And unlike the other spirits that I have seen here, she seemed like an image, non-dynamic and non-interactive, like maybe she was just sort of a residual, ghost.
So she didn't really interact with you? She was just kind of there?
Right, and I don't think she was aware of me.
Oh.
Whereas other spirits I've seen here have seemed aware.
Have you ever had, with all these spirits coming out, have any of them ever been negative or you felt afraid of or something like that?
Yes, I have had some experiences where I've been afraid. And when I first moved in, before I got to understand my house, I was afraid a lot of the time. Mostly just afraid because I didn't know who was here and I didn't know that much about ghosts. I wouldn't have bought this house if I felt like it was evil when I stepped in, or if I would have had an experience that seemed evil. I knew the house was haunted because you could tell, you felt like there was somebody watching you, somebody behind you, and it was just a very dark, gloomy house. But I knew that there had been an old man who lived here, and the house itself it's an old Victorian, and it was sort of, it was almost like the house itself was an old person. I mean, it was sort of structurally sound, but getting a little frayed around the edges. You know, it needed a new roof. It needed a paint job. The curtains were always drawn. It was just very quiet and still. And so I'm like...
Those old Victorian homes, we have a lot of them in this area.
I live in one.
You live, and they just have that feeling to them anyways, I think. I mean, I've been in a couple of them, and you can just feel the history, the age.
You can get a heavy feeling depending on the house that you're in. Mine is not quite like that, but when I had curtains up, and then the rooms get real dark because you have such high ceilings and things. So I tend not to have curtains on my windows because I like all that light coming in. Otherwise, it does get real dark and lonely, kind of.
Right. That's how the house felt. It felt very forlorn, I think is how I described it, and unloved.
Yeah.
And I do believe that a house that has had families living in it or people living in it for more than 100 years is going to have an energetic imprint that people can tune into, even if they're not that psychic. And this didn't feel like a threatening house. It did feel like there was at least one ghost in it.
How long had it been empty?
Only 6 months. But what happened was he had lived here for 30 years. His wife this house had been built as a really grand single-family home, turned into a duplex in the 1930s, and then turned into a triplex in the 1960s. And the old guy was a carpenter, Leon, and he turned the downstairs into 2 units in a way that didn't destroy the architectural integrity of the house, which is really cool. And then he and his wife lived in the back apartment, and they rented the other 2 apartments to old women, widows or unmarried women who wanted somewhere to live where they didn't have to cut the grass, and they could walk across the street to the Catholic church. And, so he had done that, and then his wife became very ill and actually ended up having to go live in a nursing home. And he stopped renting out the other apartments because he said he was having to send all the money to the government. So the house had gotten just quieter and quieter and more closed down, in the last years that he was here. And I did hear Linda Drake is a psychic from Texas, and she's one of the most down-to-earth psychics I've ever met. She's really cool. When she came through my house, the spirits were actually doing things in response to her questions. And we've had all these things happen before, but never in response to,
a question or anything,
Right. And she was talking to the old-fashioned spirit sisters who lived here in the late 1800s.
What are they called?
They're spirit sisters, Hartnett sisters.
Okay.
They lived here in the late 1800s with their mom and dad.
Hey, I want to interrupt you really quick, and I hate doing this, but it's a little off topic. It's back to what we were talking about a little bit before. We got a phone call. Somebody was wanting to know what the Audrey voice was. And correct me if I'm wrong, it was a voice that was contacting Stan about, the UFO phenomenon that was going on with him, correct?
Right. And as I understand it, I think the voice was primarily viewed as a positive thing for Stan, like it was giving them information that was helpful to them. It wasn't something threatening or harassing. And actually, to quickly finish up the Stan story in just a minute, I was very freaked out by the thought of having Stan come to my house because I'd read the book, and I can live with ghosts, but UFOs freak me out for some reason. And the night before they came, I woke up to flashes of light in my room, one in my room and one in the hallway. The next morning, we had a local reporter here. She interviewed Stan. They had just gotten here from a vacation place that they'd been at in northern Minnesota. Yeah. And she said, okay, what is the most recent thing that's happened to you? And he said, well, we had flashes of light at the cabin, inside the cabin last night. And I just went, oh, my, I was so scared because I'm like, okay, I don't want aliens to come here. I really don't want to.
Because it happened to you, too, yeah.
Yeah, so when Stan took pictures, they took pictures as they walked through the house because they had read my books, too. Yeah. And of all the pictures, only Stan's had these weird, dark shadows in them. And they're actually posted on my Twitter page if anybody wants to go there. It's Annie Wilder, no space, on Twitter. And then the night after we saw that while they were here, and it's like, whoa, that's weird. And then they left. All right, so that night I was feeling relieved. I was feeling fine. I wasn't worried anymore. It's like nothing happened really, little weirdness in pictures. That's okay. I woke up in the middle of the night because my bed was shaking, and that has never happened before.
Wow.
With the weird things I've had happen, that has never happened. And I saw my cat, like, going, like she was being pulled off the bed, and she had her claws stretched out, and she was being pulled off the bed.
Oh, my God.
Okay. All right. I have heard that you can have, like, a...
I was going to say first, you live, I don't know exactly where you live, but do you have earthquakes? But then the cat,
no, we're in Minnesota.
Cat ruined that question. Never mind.
Do you have a really strong vacuum that?
No, no, I don't. And okay, so I've heard that you can have like almost hallucinations as you're going to sleep or waking up or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to believe that it was some sort of literally like physical hallucination that I was having. And the next day, this happened twice where I woke up that night and the bed was shaking enough that I got out of bed and I turned on the bathroom light, and I was just like, why does this make me think that nothing's going to happen if my bathroom light is on? But
yeah, isn't
made
that
me
funny?
feel
We
better.
all think that, yeah.
Exactly. So
it's safer if we can see it coming.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I decided I would get back in bed one more time, and if anything happened again, I was going to go downstairs, turn on all the lights, watch TV, have my cell phone in my hand,
Yeah.
But nothing else happened that night. Okay, so now it's 4 days later or something. I'm changing the bedding on the weekend, almost thinking that whatever. I don't dwell on things that scare me a lot because I just, it's not good for me to do that. I was pulling off the sheets, and I looked, and I just got like hot.
I know what you're going to say. I know.
Cat claw marks ripped in the sheets at the foot of the bed, and I was like, "Oh wow, that really happened."
Oh my!
I knew
God.
you were going to say that.
Happened.
I knew you were going to say that.
Oh yeah. So.
Oh my gosh.
So that's my Stan Romanek story.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to ask him over for dinner anytime soon.
He was a super nice guy. So is his wife. So are their friends. But I just think I would have a nervous breakdown if I dealt with the kinds of things that he has been dealing with.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Okay, so that's the Stan story. So I personally don't know what the Audrey voice is. If it's a government thing, if it's a anti-government thing, if it's an alien thing. All I know is something super weird is going on, and there's weird stuff that happens around Stan. So.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I hated interrupting you.
Oh no, it's all good.
Back to the sisters.
Okay, the Spirit Sisters. I think you have a cover of my first book on your website.
Yep.
That's the red book. It's House of Spirits and Whispers, and the cover is actually a photograph of an antique seed poster that we found on a door down in the dirt room in the basement of my house. And that was where we found this treasure that Leon, the old guy, had buried. And if you look closely, you probably can't see on a website photo, but when you get a copy of the book, or if Jen sent you one of the little girls in the late 1800s wrote her initials on this seed poster girl's head, her forehead, and wrote her name across the girl's chest. And you can only see part of it because they cropped it out for the book cover.
Yeah.
But brought the door up from the dirt room the night that we found it, and I do tell the whole story in the book. And I was sort of scared of the door. We were gonna.
You were scared of the door?
Because well, here's what happened.
Okay.
My son and I went down to the dirt room. This was after we had found Leon's treasure. We gave it back to his family. And this house was just so cool and interesting to live in with teenagers. My kids were teenagers at the time. And Jack was like, let's go down and look for more money. And I didn't think there would be more money because I was pretty certain that Leon knew this house inside and out. And if there was any more money, he had already found it and put it in with his money. But we went down there because it was just a fun thing to do. And we had a candelabra thing for candles because there's no light in the dirt room, and we didn't have working batteries for the flashlight. And so we were in there, and I was, my son was crawling around. You can stand up in about a third of the dirt room, maybe a little less than that, and the rest is probably only 5 or 6 feet high, and you sort of have to just crawl back there and crouch. And if you go back far enough, there's another little room that you can go in that I've never been in, and I never will. But my son and my dad have gone in there. So I was pulling on some limestone rock. There's one wall in the dirt room that is made of limestone, and just saying like, you know, this is like Scooby-Doo. Just pull one of these stones, and something will pop out. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw a face. I thought, you know, but we're in a dirt room. I mean, there's like old rain gutters and, you know, just a few things like that stored down there. It's dirt. It's not a root cellar. It's whatever. And I turned and looked, and I saw this, the face that's on the cover of the book, upside down on a door. And I just screamed my head off because it was so unexpected. And then we went over there and, you know, realized it was a poster on the back of this door. And I was so bothered by the thought of even an image of a little girl in this dirt room that I said, you know what, let's take because we knew the house was haunted.
Kids are scary.
Yeah. I said, let's take the door off the hinges and put it out in the garage. So we took it off its hinges, brought it upstairs, and then I looked at it, and it is a homemade door, and it's really a piece of art, I think. So I decided to leave it in the house, but that night I had an out-of-body experience, and I saw these 2 girls. Now, we didn't find the signature on this door for like another 8 years, but I saw these 2 girls, probably teenagers, floating in the air, all white, transparent, with pompadour hairdos and long dresses, and they seemed annoyed with me.
Oh.
And one of them whispered something to the other one, and then I got, you know, fiercely hot and just woke up in my bed or back in my body or whatever. It was over, and I ran out to the hallway where I'd had this astral experience because I just believed. It's like I was just out there and I saw these girls. So I ran out there. Nothing looked different. But I'm like, all right. I figured they were associated with the door because we had just brought the door up. On 2 other occasions since that time, I've seen one of the sisters.
Really?
And when I was writing my book, I went down, a little boy at a party.
Which book?
House of Spirits.
Okay.
And when one of my friend's kids at a party found the handwriting on the seed poster. And so that was, as I said, about 8 years after we had brought it upstairs. It's in a corner of my house that of the parlor that doesn't have a light, so it's not very well lit, and it's hard to see. I now have like a spotlight on it and then a big floor lamp beside it. But I went down to the history room at our city hall to try to find a picture of one of these HeartNet girls because they had 3 girls. And I did find a picture of one of them, not the girl who wrote her name on the door, but one of the sisters. And it is a graduation picture from 1907. Oh. And in it, she has pompadour hairdo and a long white dress.
Oh, wow. So, now, do you know if she lived like a full life or if she had died, you know, after graduation sometime close to that time? You know what I mean?
Right.
Or if this was like a kind of she got to choose to haunt as a teenage girl again.
Right.
Like how did that happen?
Yeah, that's cool that you are aware of that. This particular sister did actually die young.
Oh.
But I believe she was about 25 or so when she died. The other 2 sisters lived to be old women. And that was one of the things that puzzled me. I mean, I do love living in this house because it's like living in a sort of a mystery that just never ends. But I was thinking that too, because I had thought, all right, these are young girls lost in time from the 1800s.
Yeah.
And then when I was writing House of Spirits and, looking for pictures and all that, I found obituaries for all three sisters. This one who's in the picture, the graduation picture, had died as a pretty young woman. But the other two sisters, including the one who wrote her name on the door, lived to be old women. And I'm like, okay, well, so if I would have moved into town, 15 years earlier, I might have seen them at the grocery store in the kind of clothes that, 70s whatever wear, because that's when they died, 1970s. And I thought, so why did I see them in these old-fashioned, clothes? But then I started thinking that maybe, when they lived here, this is what they look like. And so maybe when they come to this place, that is their energetic identity. That is, the one that's the imprint that's left here. Or maybe they were just conveying information to me. It made me feel like I had discovered who they were because of this photograph matching their appearance.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you're right. So that ghost spirits can appear at different ages and different.
Yeah, that's because it's always interesting because people look and try to find certain things like, oh, it must have been a little girl, but then it's like, well, she died at 60, so
right.
It's... Quick thing, and we just don't have enough time for a lot of stuff, so I want to get you sent us some EVP.
Right.
Can we listen to some EVP?
Yes, definitely. I hope it comes across well to the listeners. I'm meeting with my web guy this week, and I want to get him put up on my site.
Okay, and your website is AnnieWilder.com. That's ANNIEWILDER.com. Correct?
Yep.
Okay,
Annie, which one do you want?
You can start with number 1, if you would.
Well, I don't have them numbered, so this is Annie's Italian accent.
The first one was See My Home.
They don't come
okay.
on this the way that you may have
Gotcha.
them listed on there. These
I'm
just
sorry.
come up any way they want to come up. So, all right, somebody, what is it? Oh, See My Home?
See My Home, yep.
Okay.
I've got them listed number 1.
Whoops. Wait a minute. That one came up too quick. All right. Do you want to set it up, or do you want me just to play it?
Sorry. Yes, I would like to set it up.
Okay.
Because that was these EVPs were all gathered by a Minnesota, Northern Minnesota paranormal investigators, a really great group of investigators, and they said that my house had more EVPs captured than any other private residence they've ever done. And the very first one I was happy to hear was this one that you'll be playing. And to me, it sounds like a woman's voice, and it sounds like she's proud and saying, "See my home." And I have heard from psychics that one of the reasons that spirits who lived here keep coming back is because people just fall in love with this house. They're drawn to it, and I feel the same way.
Okay, here we go.
Go ahead and play that again.
Yeah, I'm going to do it again.
I can hear that.
Yeah, I can too. I can hear the home particularly.
Yeah, looks like it's drawing out a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, and is number 2, or you can, even if you just tell me, I just wanted that one to be played first if possible.
Okay. I have kitchen, somebody help me someday.
Okay. I never did hear the someday on that. These were labeled by the Northern Minnesota Paranormal Investigators, but I think somebody help me is pretty clear.
Okay, here we go. Oh, I could hear this someday.
I just heard it.
Yeah.
I just heard it for the first time. Okay.
Can you play that again because I didn't hear it?
Yeah.
I will listen better now.
It's this and then a beat and then someday.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Just a little bit of a someday.
Josh on Pal Talk says he thinks he heard "Leave Me Alone."
Oh, wow.
Where did he hear "Leave Me Alone"?
On
Can you play it one more time?
Does he?
On the EVP, I'm guessing is what he means.
Yeah, but which one is what we're saying? Was it the See My Home, or he's thinking it was Leave
thought she was
Me Alone?
Saying, Leave me alone in my house?
Or
I'm sorry. I see if that ever happened to my house, I'd be like, okay, well, I'll move.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna do the Somebody Help Me again. You know what? It almost sounds like the Someday is a different voice.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah.
It doesn't have this plaintive, almost petulance or something.
Wow. That's really freaky.
Yeah. Josh said it was the first one.
Okay.
Okay.
See My Home.
All right. Well,
okay. Let's
go
to the
back?
My Home.
No, let's go to the next
one.
one.
Okay, I can see that a little bit.
All right. Now I've got Ghostly Whisper.
Okay, this one is actually my favorite because it's so freaky, I think. If I had heard this when I first lived here, I would have been very scared. But I've lived here long enough. I feel very comfortable in my home and very confident. This one has like 4 voices all sort of woven around each other going on at once. And one of them is the See My Home voice that they must have lifted out to have just be a separate track or something.
Yeah.
And then there's a voice that goes like bleh, bleh, or just some weird noise. And then I can't remember what the 4th one is, but the one that is very freaky is this whisper over the top of all of it saying, "We've become who you are."
Whoa.
Oh my.
Okay, here we go.
I heard the whisper. That was yeah. Play that one more time.
Right there. We got a little bit of goosebump going
All right,
there.
now can you imagine a psychic or a medium that gets bombarded like this daily?
Lola, are you psychic?
No.
Okay. I was just wondering. Yeah.
As far as the east is to the west, Lola is to the being psychic.
Lola is still wanting to have her first experience.
Yes.
Oh, well, if you're ever in Minnesota, you have to come to a tea party.
Oh,
all of you.
I'd love to. We all would.
Yeah, we would.
And be careful what you ask me.
We're taking a road trip. Hey, and real quick, we're going to be giving away 2 of your books. One of them, we're going to do it like we did the last few times. Somebody from the call-in, so the number here, 304-214-1600, out of the area, 1-866-514-1600. We're going to be giving away a book for the caller and one registered online. So Nikki's going to...
I already ran the random number generator and picked somebody, so...
Okay.
You want me to say it now, or...
Well, yeah, because we only have 4 minutes left.
Yeah, Dave.
Unfortunately, we have to take the top of the hour break.
We're going to bring you back, so we've got so much to talk to you about.
Nick.
Dave from Regina, Saskatchewan.
Oh, wow.
So that's who won.
So your book's
In
going
Canada.
to Canada.
That's great.
So,
all right, and
listens on the podcast, from what I understand, and
so
right now we're getting people. Lola's lining them up over there. So now the book that we're giving away is Spirits Out of Time, which is the newest book, and which I just realized we really didn't even get to. You got so much we can talk to you about, which we'll have to bring you back.
I would love to.
You know, in fact, October sometime, hopefully, maybe we can work that out for you.
That would be great.
Because we got ghosts coming up, you know. So now in this book, you have stories that you've collected from your family throughout their lifetimes. Ghost stories, you know, from Irish and German. Am I getting that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
German. Yeah, which I have German. Jordan and I both have German ancestry. You have Irish ancestry,
yeah, I'm
right?
German-Irish.
So that would the Irish part. I love the Irish. I don't know
I
why.
know.
So
I know. It's so colorful.
Actually, the guy we have coming on next is Irish.
Oh,
He's calling
cool.
us from Dublin. Yeah. So.
I'll have to listen in. I'll definitely have to listen in.
And it's just the accent alone, just is like whatever you want to say, just keep talking.
I know. I feel the same way.
Now this book is full of true family ghost stories. So this is the stuff that is it passed down? Is this ghosts of your family?
Yes. many of the stories are from all the way like 2 generations back, like, or no, actually more, my great-great-grandparents. And these are stories that have been written down and told. There are also just weird things that have happened in my family, weird paranormal stories that we've had. I mean, one of the things I think I sort of hope and I'm hearing from people with this book is that they're looking at their own lives and realizing that there are a lot of messages from the spirit world if you are paying attention.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's got everything from spooky to humorous to sort of poignant. So, yeah.
Well, that is all the time. We got to cut to a break here in just a minute.
I'm so sorry, Annie, because this has been great.
Oh, man.
Well, thank you
We're
so
definitely
much.
having you come back because I really want to dig into some of these stories.
Yeah, I do too.
I got tons of them.
Well, see, and that's what we like. We love stories.
I know.
So we're definitely going to have you back. And Nikki books the guests, so he'll be getting in touch with you and figuring out when the best time for you is.
Sounds great.
Hey, thank you very much. Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Annie Wilder, her website, ANNIEWILDER.com. That's AnnieWilder.com.
If you want to buy our books, they're on our website. It's linked to the place. Do we have anybody win, by the way?
Yeah, Paula Edwards.
Paula Edwards.
Yes,
Come
from
on.
St. Clairsville.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah,
Paula, you have the book?
Yep, she does.
And Dave from Saskatchewan
Yes.
has a book.
Okay.
I just
I like giving away this way easier because a lot of people out of town can't
It's harder for them
speed
to
dial.
I know.
Yeah.
Speed dial as
I know.
fast as our local fans can do. Hey.
What?
7 o'clock break.
Yep.
Right now. CNN News. We'll be right back after this with Dr. Patrick Heron from Ireland. The former West Virginia penitentiary housed some of the most violent criminals in history. Many of the prisoners who lived there also died there. It is known for being one of the most bloody institutions in the United States. Don't miss your chance to experience the former West Virginia penitentiary. Your tour will consist of an astonishing 90 minutes that offers an awesome history, a touch of art, cold hard facts, and an education of the justice system. Tours start 11 a.m. Tuesday through Sunday. For more information, go to www.wvpentours.com or call them at 304-843-4146.
Now it's time for Whispers, your number one source for all things paranormal, with your hosts, Jordan Klein and Nick Queen, and produced by the lovely Lola Miller. Whispers is brought to you by West Virginia Penitentiary Tours at the West Virginia State Penitentiary in Moundsville. Unforgettable, historical, educational.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Whispers Radio. This is our second hour. It is still cold outside. I don't know the degrees right now.
An hour later, it's a few degrees colder.
It's an hour colder here in Whaling.
53 degrees.
53 still?
Cloudy.
I guess it didn't get much colder. Give us a call, 304-214-1600. If you're out of the area, our toll-free number is 1-866-514-1600.
Yes, and I'm sorry, everybody, on Pal Talk or Pal Chat or Pal somethings. I can't get on. My computer won't let me on.
Palled out.
Yes, and I'm upset about that. I like talking to everybody.
Maybe next week, bring your laptop. We'll have it hooked up.
Yeah.
That way, if it freezes up.
Yeah, then it's just my problem at home.
I'm risking it right now. I am walking the edge. I'm hoping that my computer running Windows 7 now will be stable enough. Because Vista, as soon as I put it on there, actually that was the first day we had UPRN, so maybe the UPRN people will remember. It crashed. We lost the first 30 minutes of the show to posterity and.
Now, see,
I cried and Jordan cried.
I got a
Frank
Mac.
Pacino cried.
And I'm not having any problems
Uh-huh.
with it on when it turns on.
You and your communist Mac.
Yeah, except you can only get a couple websites or something. You said.
You've been complaining to me all day about how bad you can't get online.
He's just trying to get free
and,
stuff.
Guess who got online quick? Nick, and his Windows 7. Have you seen those Windows 7 commercials with the little girl? That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay, well, never
All
mind.
right, our second hour guest.
Yes, one of my favorites.
The one you've all been waiting for. Sorry, that's the closest thing to a drum roll I got. It's patting on my belly.
Kind of like a bad
and for those
helicopter.
out there that keep hearing this weird hacking noise, Nikki's sick.
I don't know what's
and
wrong
he's
with
trying. He's pushing the microphone away and running into a corner.
Nice. He's infecting all of us with swine flu.
It's okay, sure.
And it still sounds like a cat dying. But throw your best wishes over towards Nikki because the poor fella.
He doesn't feel good.
He does not feel good.
Let's go.
Okay. Right. One of our favorite guests that we've had, a friend of the show, Patrick Heron, calling all the way from Dublin, Ireland. His new book is The Return of the Antichrist and the New World Order. Patrick, you with us?
Yes, I am, sir. Who am I speaking to? That's not Nick, is it?
This is Jordan Klein.
Jordan, how are you?
Good, sir. How are you?
I'm swinging the devil by the tail.
I will try my best not to infect you through the phone line.
Well, I think it's very unfortunate that they're referring to you as a swine.
Well, you saw my picture, you'd be like, well.
No, that's not true. He's just, he's our Nicky, that's all.
I try. I will get better. Actually, I'm getting better. I was much worse a couple of days ago, so I pulled myself together for the show. Persevered.
Actually, I just heard on the news a few minutes ago over here that a herd of pigs have just contracted the human form of swine flu.
Oh, they're screwed.
I'm serious. This is true. It was just on the news like a half an hour ago. I don't know what that means. I don't know whether that's good or bad or what it is.
Is it the human flu then for them?
I guess.
I guess. I guess.
The swine call it the human flu. It's a pandemic.
You could probably make a cartoon about that.
Oh no, they'll make it all into a complete movie. I'm sure. What's his name? Oh, JFK. Come on, Nick.
Oliver Stone.
Yes, Oliver Stone will come up with a movie.
My lord, I actually pulled it up and it really did happen. My pig herd catches human swine flu. That makes my day. I'm sorry.
Well, didn't they make a movie just a few years ago about pigs, and it was a big hit all over the world? Some Australian movie. I can't remember what it was called.
Oh, yeah.
Not Babe or...
Yeah, it was
It
Babe.
Babe? Was that Australian?
Yeah, that was it. I think,
okay. Yeah. Wow, I didn't know that was Australian.
Mr. Heron, tell us about your new book.
Well, my new book is called Return of the Antichrist and the New World Order. And I wrote a series of articles last year, short articles on the Antichrist, because I was reading all these articles on the internet and elsewhere, and I got really fed up reading the speculation and the assumptions that people were making. And I think this comes a lot from the fact that there hasn't been a whole lot of new thinking with regard to, end times prophecies and the book of Revelation and eschatology over the last 10, 20, 30 years. A lot of the times it's just the same information that's been rehashed and rehashed time and time again. So I wrote a bunch of these short articles on the Antichrist, and I got a lot of people writing to me saying that I should turn them into a book. So I decided to do it. And the interesting thing is that I decided that I was going to ignore what everybody else had written about. I was going to ignore the television, Fox News, CNN, Sky, and everything else. And I was going to go back and do a study on this man we call the Antichrist, just purely from Scripture. And what I discovered, fairly interesting almost straight away, is that the word the Antichrist I only use twice in the whole of Scripture, and that's in the epistles of John. The word Antichrist only appears 4 times, with the Antichrist only twice. In the book of Revelation, this man, and he is a man, although a different type of man, he's never called the Antichrist. He's called the beast who ascends from the abyss, having 7 heads and 10 horns. In fact, he's referred to the word the beast in the book of Revelation no less than 35 times, right?
Yeah.
35 times he's referred to as the beast. And as I say, to give him his full title, he's called the beast who ascends out of the abyss having 7 heads and 10 horns. So how often have we heard prophecy teachers or end times writers call him by this title and explain its meaning? practically none.
Yeah.
So this is the first in-depth study, I believe, of all aspects of the man that John the Revelator terms the beast from the abyss. And in this book, I have documented straight from Scripture what his name is, where he comes from, where he is at the moment, when he will appear, what the 7 heads are, what the 10 horns represent, his association with the USA in prophecy, because the United States is all over Revelation chapter 17 and 18, and his demise and final doom. And you know, you remember, I'm sure you will remember that when all of us got saved, as newborn babes in Christ, we were encouraged to take the milk of the word that we might grow thereby. Well, this book is meat. It's very strong meat.
Mm-hmm.
And in this book, the reader will be taken on an excursion, as it were, behind the veil of the apocalypse, to glimpse secrets that have been hidden from scholars for centuries. And it's because we are in the end times now, I believe, that these mysteries are being revealed. So that's the synopsis of the book.
Well, that sounds pretty deep.
All right, so I have to ask, because I heard you saying, what's his name? I've got to ask that.
Well, his name is given in Revelation chapter 9, verse 11. So let me tell you who he's not.
Okay,
he's
sure.
not Nero or any of the early Caesars or the popes or Stalin or Hitler, as many people thought. He's not Mao Zedong. He's not Saddam Hussein. He's not Osama bin Laden, Ayatollah Khomeini, Vladimir Putin, Tony Blair, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Ronald Reagan, George Bush, and here's got the one, I'm going to shock everybody now, President Barack Obama is not the Antichrist. The name of the Antichrist, as I say, and his whereabouts, when he will appear on the world stage, are all given, they're all hidden in plain sight, as it were, in Scripture. So, you know, just before I give you a name, we have to backtrack a little bit.
Okay.
He's called the beast who ascends from the abyss, okay? Now, why is he called this name? And this, you will remember the last time I spoke to you about the Nephilim, the fallen angels of Genesis 6. And briefly, for those of your listeners who don't know anything about this, back in Genesis chapter 6, it talks about the Nephilim descending, and manifesting on this earth, and having sex with human women and producing these offspring that were the giants of the Old Testament. And these guys were knocking around, according to my studies, for about 1,000 years. And these were the gods of yore, of legend, of Greek and Roman and Egyptian mythology, where it talked about the gods coming down from heaven, having sex with human women. Zeus came down, took Alcmene to wife. She almost died giving birth to Hercules. And they lived in Mount Olympus and Delphi and places like this. This is where all this stuff comes from. So these guys are fallen angels, spirit men, fallen spirit men, a group, about 200 according to the Book of Enoch, who rebelled with Satan and Lucifer and tried to usurp the throne of God. But they were defeated in that coup. It didn't work, but 200 of them descended on Mount Hermon in the days of Jared. And by the time the flood came, they had infected and affected the DNA of almost the whole human race, except for Noah and his family, just 8 souls. And we're told that these people had such an effect with their violence, their evil, their bloodshed, their immorality in those days, that God said, I've had enough of this. So he sent the flood. He drowned all the human population at that time because it says there was only evil in men's hearts always. That could have been 20, 30 million people by that stage. He drowned all the offspring of these fallen angels, which were the giants. But you cannot drown spirit men, because that's what angels are. They're spirit beings, but they're men. Let us make man in our image. In the image of God made he men. We look like them, they look like us. So we're told that these spirit beings that caused the sin are locked up in a subterranean prison, which is called in Scripture the Bottomless Pit, or the abyss. And once in Peter, it's referred to as Tartarus. And this again, of course, ties in with the Tartarus of Greek and Roman mythology, where we're told that the gods are imprisoned because they rebelled against Zeus. And we're also told that the Lord, the Messiah, Jesus, in his risen body, went and preached to these spirits, which are fallen angels, spirit men, angels. He went and preached to them in his risen body after he had been risen from the dead, when he got his new spiritual body. That's why it says in Ephesians, he descended into the lower parts of the earth, and he heralded his triumph over these guys. That's what the word preached means. He heralded his triumph over them and showed to them that they were defeated.
Okay, now I have a question.
Sure.
Question from our chat room. It says, "Will the Antichrist be human, acting under influence?" And that was asked by Josh.
I'm coming to that, Josh.
Okay.
Right there in about
we'll get there,
90
Josh.
seconds, right?
All right, 90 seconds. All right.
We jump up. Now, we're told that First Peter, Second Peter, and the Epistle of Jude refer to these fallen angels. It says they left their first estate, which is heaven, and they came to earth, had sex with women, caused all this sin and evil and violence prior to the flood of Noah, and then they were wiped out. And, the reason for these guys coming here, their whole raison d'etre, as it were, was to try and break the prophecy given in Genesis 3:15, where God said that he was going to put enmity between her seed, between Eve's seed and the seed of the serpent, and that the seed of the woman would crush his head and the seed of the serpent would bruise his heel, referring to the crucifixion, which was a nominal wound, but not fatal compared to having your head crushed. So the whole idea of Satan and his host was to break this prophecy. Anyway, jumping back to the New Testament, these guys are locked up in this prison ever since, called the Bottomless Pit or the Abyss. But in Revelation chapter 9, we are told that an angel, a star, it says, fell from heaven to earth with the key to the bottomless pit. The star there is a metaphor for an angel because stars don't have keys to prisons. And it says in verse 2, "And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace. And the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And out of this pit came locusts, and they were given power as scorpions of the earth were given power." Now, those locusts and scorpions, again, are metaphors for spirit beings or angels. And you go back to Luke chapter 10, and Jesus Christ explains that to you. Then in verse 11, and a few more verses down, it gives us the name of the Antichrist. So this takes all the guesswork out of it. And it says, "And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in Greek is Apollyon." So this is very interesting. It says they had a king over them. Now, a king in the Greek is just a ruler. When this ruler comes, he could be a chairman, a president, a prime minister, a chancellor, whatever. They had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless. So he's an angel and he's a king. And his name in Hebrew is Abaddon, but in Greek is Apollyon, which means the destroyer. Now, Apollyon, if you will remember, is how the Greeks spell who we would call Apollo. And Apollo was one of the original leaders of the main pantheon of gods way back prior to the flood, according to Greek and Roman legends, along with other gods, that's a small g, by the way, such as Mars, Saturn, Pluto, Mercury, Zeus, Jupiter, Sirius, Venus, Athena, Orion, etc. Okay. And we're told that this guy ascends out of the bottomless pit, and it says he has 7 heads and 10 horns. We'll come to that in a minute. So basically, this guy, Apollo, and let's call him Apollo because we don't use the word Apollyon because we're not Greek. His name is Abaddon or Apollo, is what the book of Revelation describes as the beast that ascends out of the bottomless pit. He goes on to become what we call the Antichrist. He is not a human being.
God Apollo is what we would be calling the Antichrist then.
Well, that's the name that Revelation chapter 9, verse 11 gives him. And remember, the book of Revelation is direct revelation from Jesus Christ to John via an angel. So that's what the scripture is telling us his name is. It says they had a king over them whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon, in Greek is Apollyon, who is Apollo. And Apollo in the original Greek mythology was the epitome of the beauty of men. He was the god of prophecy, the god of medicine, the god of music. He had his oracle at Delphi, which is an incredible site. You can go online and look at it there. There's temples to Apollo all over Greece, Rome, Turkey, that area to this day, which you can see there. Yeah. So this is who he is. The point is that the Antichrist is not a human being. He's not a human politician who gets possessed by Satan. When these 200 fallen angels, which were gods, with a small g, as I say, when they manifested on the earth back in the days of Jared, which is about 1,000 or 1,100 years prior to the flood of Noah, which would be about 3,200 BC, they appeared as they were. They appeared on the earth before the human beings as supernatural beings, super powerful, angelic probably very attractive men, full of wisdom, full of knowledge, full of cunning, irresistible to the women probably. That's who they were. They didn't possess anybody. That's who is locked up in the bottomless pit right now. And when they are released, this guy is the king of them, the leader, and his name is Abaddon or Apollo. And he goes on to become what we call the Antichrist. And we're also told, I was reading it earlier tonight with my family, that this guy is going to deceive almost the whole world with his lying signs and wonders, right? He can do all sorts of supernatural things. He's going to be able to, the false prophet, who's another fallen angel, we'll come to him in a minute. His right-hand man is going to be able to take an image of the Antichrist, of the beast, and make it come alive so that it can speak and cause all who don't take the mark of the beast to be put to death. They're going to be able to call fire from heaven down to earth in the sight of men. This beast is going to receive a deadly head wound. He's going to be killed, possibly assassinated, probably in the eyes of the whole world, and the whole world is going to see him being raised from the dead. This, again, is a counterfeit resurrection. At the end of the apocalypse, we're told that the beast and the false prophet are thrown alive into the lake of fire. And then 1,000 years later, we're told that Satan is thrown into the lake of fire where the beast and the false prophet are. They're still there 1,000 years later because they are spirit beings. They're not flesh and blood. You cannot destroy them. And we're told that the lake of fire is reserved for the devil and his angels. So the reason why they're going to be able to deceive almost the whole world, that is, the people whose names are not written in the book of life from the Lamb. In fact, I have it here. It says, "The beast which you saw once was, now is not, and will come up out of the abyss and go to his destruction. The inhabitants of the world, whose names have not been written in the book of life from the creation of the world, will be astonished when they see the beast, because he once was, now is not, and yet will come." It says that twice. The beast which you saw once was. When? In the 1,000 years prior to the flood of Noah, when he reigned on the earth, along with Mars and Pluto and Jupiter and these other gods.
Uh-huh.
Now is not, because he's locked up in the bottomless pit in Tartarus, and will come up out of the abyss and go to his destruction. That doesn't mean he goes out and gets destroyed. It means he goes out, and by the time he's finished, at the end of the book of the Apocalypse, the book of Revelation, which could be 7 years long or 3.5 years long, that's moot, I'm not sure which, but by the end of that, almost the whole world is destroyed. And it says, all those whose names have not been written in the book of life from the creation of the world will be astonished when they see the beast, because he once was, now is not, yet will come. Because these people, remember, that are going to be in the world at that time are more or less body and soul people. They have no spiritual insight. They're going to. This guy is going to come along in the stead of Christ. He's going to present himself as the true Christ, the real Christ, and he's going to be acceptable to the people of the world because he's going to deceive them with his lying signs and wonders. I wouldn't be surprised if his first miracle is to change water into wine. If he feeds people with very little food, if he walks on water, who knows what he's going to do?
So do you think he's gonna try to do the same things that I guess the miracles that Jesus did? He's gonna try to do the same ones? Or?
I don't know. I'm just speculating on that. The point is, he is anti-Christ. That is, in the stead of Christ. Remember, Jesus said back in John 5, "I come in my Father's name and you reject me. Another will come in his own name, him you will accept." And the world is crying out for a charismatic leader that they can just fall around. I mean, you almost have one there in the United States of people. Look what happened just a few weeks ago when Michael Jackson died.
Yeah.
I mean, we couldn't get him off our television screens and off the radio over here for weeks. And even with his very precarious background, yet the world is ready to laud him up and to put him up in an icon, and he's the king of pop and all this rubbish. So you can imagine when this guy comes on the earth with the false prophet and they start doing all these miracles, people are going to swallow it hook, line, and sinker.
Now I got a question for you. You say his name is going to be I'm probably going to butcher this one, Abaddon or Apollyon, correct?
Well, I'm not saying that.
I mean, I'm just saying from the Bible says that, and
that's right.
How would that translate to modern days? Is that saying that that's going to be his? Because when you name something, many times you're giving it the characteristics of it. Does that make sense? Or is that going to be his literal name? Mr. Apollyon, or You see what I'm saying? How would that translate to modern days?
I don't think he's going. I think this guy is literally going to present himself as the true Messiah, as Jesus Christ. That's what I think. Because remember in Matthew 24, when the disciples asked Jesus, what will be the signs of your coming and of the end of this age? And the first thing he says, beware that no one deceives you. Many shall come in my name saying, I am Christ. And he was intimating there that there's going to be a particular one that's going to say, I am the Christ. And later on, this Antichrist, we're told in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, that he is going to go into the temple of God. He's going to exalt himself above God and declare that he is God. So I believe that this guy is literally going to present himself as Jesus Christ. And in that way, he'll be acceptable to the Jews because they're still waiting for him to come the first time.
Yeah.
And he will be he will be acceptable to what I call Christendom, which are all these so-called billions of people around the world who say they're Christians, but they're just nominal Christians. For instance, there's 5 million Catholics in Ireland. They haven't a clue about Jesus Christ, about getting saved, about the second coming, about the rapture, about Holy Spirit, about speaking in tongues. They've no idea about anything. For goodness sake, Mass was in Latin, up until a number of years ago in this country. They haven't a clue. And there's a billion of those. And then you throw in the Church of England and all these other so-called Christian churches who just go through the phases of talking about Jesus, I mean, it's funny when you go to Mass here, and Jesus went down to Bethany, and behold, that's the way it is,
Now, I got a question, because I want to make sure we hit on it. The coming of the New World Order. Now, how does that come into play with this Antichrist, with Apollo coming?
Well, I'll tell you how it comes in. It says when this beast rises up, I have it in front of me, and the dragon stood on the shore. The dragon is the devil. He stood on the shore of the sea, and I saw a beast coming up out of the sea, and he had 10 horns and 7 heads with 10 crowns on his horns. What are these? Okay, so Scripture interprets Scripture. And if you read down to Revelation 17, you'll find that the angel says to John, he said, why are you astonished with this beast? I will explain to you exactly what this beast is. And then he goes on to say, the beast you saw once was, now is not, and will come again. And then he says, the 7 heads are 7 hills. They are also 7 kings, right? So just as Apollyon or Abaddon is a king and an angel, these are 7 other kings or rulers. That's all the word king means. He says the 10 horns are 10 other kings. The crowns that they receive are an indication of the authority they will get when they receive their power their authority for 1 hour with the beast. So you have 7 fallen angels and another 10 fallen angels, okay? So bear with me for a moment. That's 17 in total.
Yeah.
Then it talks about another beast who rises up out of the earth, and he's got 2 horns. So if you apply the same rules, these other 2 horns are another 2 kings or fallen angels. So that makes a total of 17 plus the beast and 2 horns is 3. That's 20. And interestingly enough, back in the book of Enoch, and by the way, Jude, the Epistle of Jude, quotes directly from the book of Enoch. And Jude was a half-brother of Jesus Christ. He was one of the sons of Mary and Joseph.
Yeah.
That gives the book of Enoch a lot of credence. He gives us the names of 20 leaders of the 200 that fell. And the main guy was called Azazel. Azazel, I'm saying, is Abaddon, who is Apollo, who is going to come as the Antichrist. So you have 10 and 7. Now let's talk about the 10 kings, the 10 rulers, these 10 horns, the beast with 10 horns. In order to figure out who these guys are, we go back to Daniel chapter 2. And you will remember back there that the dream that Nebuchadnezzar had, and then Daniel came along and interpreted the dream for him. And he told him it was referring to 5 different empires. First there was the gold, of his chest, which is the Babylonians' emperor, Nebuchadnezzar's empire. Then there was the silver breast, which was the Medo-Persian empire. That was followed by the brass stomach, which was Alexander the Great, which in turn was followed by the legs of iron, which was the Roman Empire. Then it talked about the 2 feet with 10 toes, which were made up of iron and clay. And it says this was an empire that was going to come far in the future. This is referring to what's going to happen under the Antichrist. The 10 toes are made up of both iron and clay. And then it says something very interesting in Daniel 2:43. It says, they shall mingle their seed with the seed of men. This, I believe, is referring to the Nephilim. The Nephilim are going to rule the 10 regions. The 10 toes represent the 10 geopolitical regions that the world is going to be split up into. And it's going to be ruled by this man we call the Antichrist, the beast from the abyss, plus his 10 rulers, together with human politicians. That's why it says clay and iron. We are the clay. Dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. We represent the clay. The iron, compared to these supernatural, powerful, spiritual beings, it's like clay compared to iron. That's why it says the 10 toes are going to be made up of iron and clay. Now look at what's happening in the world, right?
Okay.
Over in this Friday, we have a vote here on what's called the Lisbon Treaty. The Lisbon Treaty was rejected. We got a no vote on it in Ireland last year. But these guys are so democratic that they said, yeah, we respect your vote. Now you have to come back and do it again, and this time you have to make it a yes. Europe is going to be turned into more or less a federal United States of Europe. It'll have its own president, its own foreign minister. It'll be one of the regions. The United States, Mexico, and Canada are joining up together in NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Association.
Yeah, we talked about that last week.
Right. South America is going to be another one. Russia will be another unit. China will be another unit. Islam will be another. There'll be 10 of them. I've been told that the UN already have the world split up to 10 geopolitical supranational regions. And that's what the 10 toes are representing. That is the last world empire. Now, I know a lot of people used to say, oh, it's the EU, it's the European Union, because at one time there was 10 countries, and they said because it's the legs of iron, it's got to come out of Europe. Well, that's rubbish, because several times in Revelation it says all who dwell on the earth will worship this beast when he comes along. Everybody in the earth is going to give allegiance to this guy. It's not just Europe. In fact, if you want to draw some comparison with Europe and the people of Europe, well then, if you look there,
okay,
and the best part of 300 million people, the vast majority of them have their ethnic roots where? In Europe.
In Europe, yeah.
Absolutely. That's where probably most of your forebears come from, right? So by association, the United States is inextricably linked to Europe, if you want to take on that analogy. So that's what's happening before our very eyes. I watched Obama last week speak in Pittsburgh to these thousands of people under the auspices of the United Nations. Even your man from Iran was there, Mahmoud, and I'm going to have a jihad, or whatever his name is. Colonel Gaddafi was there, a total nutcase, And what's all the talk of? A new world order. And they're using this whole excuse of climate change to get everybody to row in behind this thing where you have a new world order, where we must start working together, where we must, get all the banks regulated so they can't run out of control. They're even now, the Chinese are floating the idea of a one world currency. It's all happening right before our eyes. We have the Lisbon Treaty here, which will probably be passed this week because we're on the brink of the abyss financially in this country. In little over a year, we've come from one of the richest countries to being almost like Iceland. So they're holding a gun to our head to make everybody vote yes this time. So it's all happening right before our eyes as we speak.
Wow.
And that's the New World Order. And you'll hear it. The Prime Minister of Britain, Gordon Brown, I saw him in a speech recently made last summer, and he mentioned the expression New World Order 9 times in about 15 minutes.
So he's actually using the words New World Order.
Absolutely. I've heard it on radio stations here several times. I read it in newspapers here in Ireland. They're literally talking about the, quote, New World Order.
Now, see, we don't really hear that here. They don't use those words because there's so many of us that, we're so conspiracy-minded, I guess, that people shy away from words like New World Order, like putting them together like that. But it's funny that in other countries, they're not trying to hide it or cover it at all. It's like, listen, we're working on a New World Order.
Yeah,
I just think that
people over here are not nearly as clued in as you guys are in the United States of America. I mean, Europe is spiritually a very secular place, very dark place. There's very little Christianity going on here. There's a revival going on in South America, in Africa, in India, in China. Apparently there's 80 million evangelicals, and they're turning the place upside down because they have so little going for them there. They just walk out on their faith, and they're doing great stuff. In Korea, all over the world. The only place that's not, and even in the United States, there's huge amount of Christians. Yeah. You know, which is a total paradox to me. You know, in the United States, richest country in the world, got the most guns, it's got the most bombs, it's got the most cocaine, it's got the most, you know, pornography, it's got and yet, you know, about half the population are sort of, many of them would describe themselves as Christian people who believe in Jesus Christ and are sort of conservative. It's just an amazing paradox, but there's a huge amount of Christians in the United States. So the only place that's very spiritually dark is Europe. But I did notice when Obama was giving a speech last week that he didn't use the words New World Order, but he used other words to substitute for them. Mm-hmm. But that's the New World Order in the Bible. And this is what we're seeing, as I say right now, is this prophecy of the coming together of these 10 geopolitical regions into, you know, the Novus Ordo Seclorum, the New World Order. It's happening right before our very eyes. So we can't be too far away from, you know, the next big step that's going to come along.
Now what words did Obama use?
He what did he do? Now let me see. I just saw a few minutes of it on the television when he was on. He was talking about a new way of cooperating together in order to overcome the obstacles that are in our way with regard to the climate change and the world and the sea and blah blah blah, that type of thing. I think he was careful not to use New World Order.
I remember George. I think the first George Bush, he used New World Order in his speech.
He absolutely did. Yeah,
I can't remember exactly what he was talking about, but
yeah, that was around back. You know, he said that. I've often seen that on YouTube where he talked about when the New World Order comes, and it will come. You know, it'll no longer be the law of the jungle, and that's what they're working towards. That's what all these people are working towards.
Now, do you think, I want to phrase this right, do you think that the governments are doing this collectively to, I guess, bring on the apocalypse because they say this is a sign? Like, do you think that there's, like, some undermining reason behind it, or do you think that, honestly, they're doing it to help the world's economy?
Well, I think that's a very perceptive question. And I'm glad you brought it up, because I sincerely do not know that whether these guys are doing what they're doing wittingly or unwittingly. I've no doubt that the people at the tops of governments and at the tops of these secret organizations, such as the Masons and the Bilderbergers and the Trilateral Commission and the Illuminati, I've no doubt that the top guys in these places are in communication, are in communion with Lucifer and his princes. But whether the likes of Gordon Brown or Tony Blair or people in the EU or Barack Obama or the people that work for Barack Obama, whether they're doing this wittingly or unwittingly, I just do not know. But interestingly enough, we talked earlier about the seeds, you know, when God confronted the serpent, who was the devil, and Adam and Eve, after the sin in the garden, he said, I'm going to put enmity between your seed and her seed. Two different seeds there. And there's always been there. You remember the parable of the tares and the wheat? You know, the man went out and planted wheat, and the enemy came and planted tares in there. And then we have another place in John 8, I think it is, where the Pharisees were having a row, as usual, with Jesus, and they said to him, we be of our father Abraham. And the insinuation there was that he was illegitimate because he went for his bar mitzvah thing when he was 13 instead of 12, because they thought he was born out of wedlock. So he said to them, we be of our father Abraham. And he turned around and said to them, you are of your father the devil, and the works of your father ye will do. He was a liar and a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth. So it appears that there are people, human beings on the earth, that are directly, I don't know if they have the seed of Satan or what. I don't exactly understand it, but they seem to be working for him and on his behalf. And remember, it says in Corinthians 4 that if the princes of this world had known about the mystery, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. And the princes of this world are, the prince of darkness himself, the devil, and his other princes, his fallen angels. And it said if they'd known about the mystery, which Paul wrote about in the epistles, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. They wouldn't have crucified Jesus Christ, which to me is an amazing truth, to think that if they'd known about Pentecost and about the giving of the Holy Spirit and about people going to have the same spirit in them that Jesus Christ had, and then thousands of them on the day of Pentecost, 3,000, then more thousands, then the apostles turned the whole world upside down then, and then now that millions of Christians all over the world, if they'd known about this, they wouldn't have crucified Jesus. They would have preferred to have him alive, let him go around and do what he was doing. But when they crucified him, they inadvertently committed their own suicide.
All right, I have two different questions here, both of them from the chat room. The first one from NY Lily. She says, does he believe that UFOs and extraterrestrials will have any part in this? I'm not sure exactly what your belief is in UFOs.
I think the UFOs, the extraterrestrials, the aliens, sightings, crop circles, all that stuff is designed to condition the people of the world for what's coming down the tracks. Okay. If you go down and look at the movies that are playing in the movie theaters at the moment, or go and switch on your TV and go through the TV channels, I got my daughter to scribble down some of them. They're all the names of some of them. They're all mystical, stroke spiritual, stroke fallen angels, stroke demons, stroke magic. It's all conditioning the world for what's coming down. Listen to some of them. Most Haunted, World Secret, Ghosts Crossing Over with John Edward, Our Psychic Family, Haiti Zombie, Psychic Detectives, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Dark Angel, Charmed, Heroes, Stargates, Angels and Demons, Twilight, Harry Potter, Drag Me to Hell, Ghosts of Girlfriends Past, Monsters vs. Aliens, Night at the Museum, Race to Witch Mountain, X-Men Origins, Knowing. There's even a fake Rapture in Knowing.
Yeah.
Batman. All this stuff is designed that as soon as kids can start watching TV at age 2 or 3, they're being conditioned into this whole spiritual, mystic, supernatural thing. And the whole UFO thing is playing into that. Because otherwise, if people weren't conditioned and these fellas showed up on the earth, they'd frighten the life out of everybody. But not really now. Because people are thinking, we've been watching this stuff all our lives. And even the governments came out last year, the Brits and the French and a lot of other countries, and opened up all their UFO files. We even had the Vatican coming out last year, remember, saying, oh yes, there are aliens and they're benign and we should treat them like our brothers. Their God is the same God as our God and stuff. I mean, there's some guy over there who's, the expert in the Vatican in UFOs and aliens, and he's telling us, oh, these guys are, sure, they're there and they're fine, they're on the way.
All right, next question was, is there any way to alter, and this is from Josh, I'll throw that out there, is there any way to alter the destiny of the Antichrist? Is there any way to swing us away from that, I'm guessing, or?
No. It's Jesus said, not one jot or tittle will fail until all be fulfilled. This is all written in stone. It's all going to come to pass. But as I always say in my interviews, the bad news is the Titanic is going down. The good news is you don't have to get on it. By the way, can I just tell Josh and anybody else that's listening out there, because we haven't mentioned it, this book I've written, The Return of the Antichrist and the New World Order, it's an e-book, and it's just $5 to download on this e-book. And my website is www.neph, that's neph.ie. I just wanted to get that in before we run out of time. And by the way, a couple of weeks ago, I got an email from Tim LaHaye, of all people.
Huh.
I presume you heard of Tim LaHaye.
Left Behind series, right?
Yeah.
He sold 80 million copies of his Left Behind series. And I got an email from a couple of weeks ago, and he said that he read my book on the Nephilim and the Pyramid of the Apocalypse, and he said he devoured it in 2 days.
He did what?
He devoured it.
He read it in 2 days.
Okay.
Well, devoured was his words were devour.
It's I think he wasn't understanding what you were saying, so I was trying to interpret to Jordan.
Hold on, I'll speak to y'all in American. Okay, he said, Tim LaHaye, he said he devoured it in 2 days.
I think Jordan got it this time.
I got you, bro.
Yeah, well, you know what somebody said, that America and Britain were two countries divided by the same language.
Jordan has trouble sometimes in our own language. Well, I do too. So,
by the way, another thing I'd like to hit very quickly, because we've got about 8 or 9 minutes left.
We got about 5 minutes.
5 minutes. I wonder, can I cover this in 5 minutes? It's about Mystery Babylon. Okay? And this is Mystery Babylon is a city. It's a vision that John saw. He said, the Spirit carried me into the wilderness. I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon, the Great, the mother of prostitutes and abominations of the earth. And she had a golden cup in her hand. So what's this all about? I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll run through these clues very quickly, and I should be able to do it in 5 minutes. And you tell me what's this talking about, and I'll give you all the clues, okay? Okay. You go down, and it interprets itself. He said unto me, the waters which you saw, where the prostitute sits, are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. And the woman that you saw is that great city which reigns over the kings of the earth. Okay, so there's 3 clues there. It says the woman you saw, the prostitute which you saw, is a great city. And it says this great city which reigns over the kings of the earth. In other words, the kings of the earth, these rulers, the Antichrist and his 10 rulers that we were talking about, are going to rule from this city. They're going to be in this great city. And it says to me, the waters which you saw, where the prostitute sits, are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. In other words, the population of this great, powerful city has a multicultural population. Now, you know, a lot of people think that this Mystery Babylon is referring to Babylon out in Iraq. Well, that's rubbish. That's just a heap of dust that's falling down out there. This Babylon is a metaphor for a powerful city, because it tells us in Revelation 11, it talks about Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. Well, Jesus Christ was crucified in Jerusalem, but we've Sodom and Egypt being used as metaphors for Jerusalem there. Likewise, Babylon is a figure pointing to a modern city which is great in power and influence in these last days. Then it says, and the 10 horns, the 10 rulers which you saw upon the beast, these shall hate the prostitute, which is the city, and shall make her desolate and naked, and eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. So this city is going to burn in the future. And then it talks about the merchants, and it says, standing afar off for fear of their torment, saying, alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. And it says, the merchants, which were made rich by her, another clue, shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what city is like unto this great city? It goes on. The merchants of the earth, again, are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. This is another hint or another clue. Merchants are made rich in this city through the abundance of her delicacies, and the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buys their merchandise anymore. And then it gives you a list of stuff you can buy in this great city. Merchandise of gold, silver, precious stone, pearls, fine linen, purple, silk, scarlet, pine wood, all manner of vessels of ivory, vessels of precious wood, brass, iron, etc. In other words, you can buy or sell anything in this great city, and the merchants became very rich from her. The merchants of these things which were made rich shall stand afar off, saying, alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, for in 1 hour is so great riches come to naught. And every shipmaster and all company in ships and sailors and as many trade by sea stood afar off and cried when they saw the smoke of our burning. So this has a big sea trading thing with shipmasters and the ship traders and people like that. Then we jump into Jeremiah 49, 50 and 51, which speak about this same city, Babylon. And it talks about as the times of the Lord's vengeance. So speaking about this city, it says, even if Babylon, listen to this clue, reaches the sky and fortifies her lofty strongholds, I will send destroyers against her, declares the Lord. She surrenders, her towers fall, her walls are torn down, since this is the vengeance of the Lord. They're most of the clues. I've a few more. I'm going to run through them quickly.
So are you talking about New York?
What do you think?
I think it's New York
That's
City.
what Lola and I were both kind of looking at each other going, New York.
It's absolutely New York. What is the financial heartbeat of the whole world? It's Wall Street.
Yep.
It's Lehman Brothers. What happened in Lehman Brothers last year has brought Ireland to the brink of almost imploding now.
Yeah.
It is absolutely New York. And by the way, remember the first clue I read out to you? This city that rules over the kings of the earth. And I said to you, that means that the kings of the earth, the Antichrist and his people, are going to rule from this great city. And if you listen to these people talking about the New World Order, they always say that the vehicle they're going to use in order to attain their goal of this one world government and New World Order is the United Nations. And where is the headquarters of the United Nations?
New York City.
There you go.
Yep.
Wow.
Now, I'm sort of rushed through that a little bit there. By the way, there's one other thing I'd like to give when it talks about this great city, and also in Jeremiah, near the end of it, it says, the sea will rise over Babylon. Its roaring waves will cover her. Now, when I read that, I said, no, that's too far-fetched. I can't put that into my book. But then, when anybody reads this book, or if they read my book on the Nephilim, at the end of the apocalypse, there's going to be a huge Mexican standoff between the huge army from the east, numbering 200 million, and a huge military power from the west under the power of the beast from the abyss. Somebody's going to hit the button, and because John says he saw flashes of lightning, he heard peals of thunder, rumblings, and a huge earthquake. And it says no earthquake was ever heard like this in the world before, and all the cities of the world fell down. He is describing a nuclear strike there. Flashes of lightning,
I just got chills.
peals of thunder, rumblings, all the cities of the world fell down. And then I went out one night a couple of months ago when I'd written most of this chapter, and I'd had a couple of pints of Guinness. And I was coming home about 2 o'clock, and I just suddenly the thought struck me, what would happen the seas of this world if 30 or 40 or 50,000 nuclear warheads all went off within the same half an hour or an hour? It would surely cause a huge tsunami that could possibly cover New York. And then that's why it says, the sea will rise over Babylon. Its roaring waves will cover her.
Wow.
And I spoke to a gentleman on the phone earlier who read my book. He read this morning. He was an Italian man living in America for 20 years. He said he was into drugs. He was in a coma, and Jesus Christ spoke to him. He came out of it. He told me 12 years ago he had a vision from God of a city by the sea with skyscrapers, and it got covered by waves, and he couldn't figure out what it was. And he read my book. He read this chapter this morning, and he rang me up, and he says, I'm so excited. I now know what that vision was. And he said he got that vision 12 years ago.
Wow.
And I wrote this chapter about 3 months ago.
Wow, that's awesome. And I hate ending this, but we are out of time, and we have to go to Fox Sports. I want to thank you, Mr. Heron, for joining us today. You're a friend of the show. We love having you. You're one of our favorite guests that we bring on, and we hope you don't decide not to come back.
I'd love to come back on again.
Email me when you want to come on.
Thank you, gentlemen and lady, for having me. It's www.neph.ie. Y'all got that?
Yep.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes, sir. And we got a link to your ebook.
I got a link to all three of the books, all three of your books on our website, and the link to the website. So.
God bless you. Thank you very, very much, and I look forward to meeting you all very soon.
Oh,
thank you, Patrick.
Come
either
visit
here,
Pittsburgh.
there, or in the air. Okay.
Patrick Heron, thank you very much, and we're definitely going to have you back.
Okay, I look forward to it. God bless.
You too.
God bless.
Again, if you want any of Patrick's books, we got them all on the website, whispers092909.mp3, and they're listed there. Nikki's got it all done. It's about our time. Nikki, next week, who we got?
If I make it. Sorry. We have F. Paul Wilson on. It's going to be a pre-recorded interview. It'll be a lot of fun, though. And I'm waiting for confirmation. I'm getting emails back now, finally, from people.
But we're definitely having F. Paul Wilson, and that's the Repairman Jack series.
Repairman Jack series, New York Times bestselling author.
And if you notice any crazy coughing sounds, that's because we're going to be recording the show after this one. So
if Nick makes it through the interview, he's one of my favorite authors, but I might not make it. So goodbye, everybody, just in case.
All right.
Is that it?
Back. Yep.
All right. Until next week, everybody, don't be afraid. Only believe.